Hello and welcome to my webinar on testosterone biohacks for men and how you can own the edge. So buckle in. This is going to be a fun, very upbeat and short, succinct webinar explaining some things that you can do that will naturally boost your testosterone levels. We're all about natural here, and I'll cover some foods that I know will decrease testosterone. It's really important you know the things that are potentially hindering your natural supply, because for a man, as you'll find out, testosterone really is his cutting edge. It's everything. So with some of the statistics I'm going to show you, you'll see why that has been threatened in modern day man, but more importantly, some things that you can do to increase it. So at the end, I've got a special offer for you as well. So hang around. I'll try and do this in 30 minutes. Let's see how we go. Who am I first? These are some of the TV appearances I've done. I have 8 published books in the hormone space, including one for guys called Keeping Up, the Tech Manual on Being a Man, and have been on TV, radio quite a lot. So I started back in 1987 at the Royal Hobart as a nurse, and really only, it's only recently that I've stopped nursing to work on my days off. I trained in primary care, absolutely loved it, predominantly worked in emergency though over those years, a bit of CCU and ICU. I had 9 years in pharmaceuticals. Some people see that the dark side when you're a naturopath, but for me, it gave me a lot of business understanding and also a very solid understanding about the role pharmaceuticals can play in modern day medicine. For the last 23 years, I've had my own natural medicine business. And what that means is I went back to uni and qualified in health science, specializing in naturopathy, nutrition, and also I'm a herbalist and have been helping men and women globally for many moons now and absolutely love it, particularly this side of it, the educative side of it, because I love it when people come up or they say, hey, I watched something or I listened to something you said and it changed my life. Because sometimes little things have a massive compound benefit over time. So let's look at some statistics with Australian men. Interesting. Up to 1 in 5 Australian men over the age of 40 could have low testosterone. So, 20% is a big number. A lot of walking around not realizing it. Notwithstanding that 75% of Australian men are overweight or obese. As soon as there's a weight issue, there will be a hormone problem. They go hand in hand. Obesity and chronic stress are the major causes of hormone imbalances. And I have another webinar where I'll talk about belly fat and the role that cortisol plays in creating that belly fat, as well as insulin and sugar imbalances. Guys are rarely tested, and it's a bit of a shame because they might go to the GP and say, I'm low in energy. They might get a battery of tests to rule out cancer, but then they're often dismissed and said, look, you're fine. There's nothing wrong here. And people aren't looking for low testosterone. They really should be, even in young men. 38 is when the natural andropause, or when testosterone starts to diminish, and it is a critical hormone for guys. It supports your muscle mass. It's accountable for your strength. So if you feel like you're losing strength, you might be dropping your testosterone. A lot of people think of guys and testosterone as their sex drive. It's so important for that, but it's more. It's more than just that. It's important for a man's confidence, for his mental clarity, for his memory, for his sharpness, what I would call the edge. It helps maintain bone density, and it also looks after your heart. So after the age of 30, I think the average is 35, you start losing 1% per year. If you're not active, if you're eating rubbish food, that's going to drop a lot quicker. And as I said, numbers vary. It's hard to find accurate information about how rife this is, because guys historically don't go to a GP unless they're really dying or being pushed to, and then they're often turned away or misdiagnosed and it's not considered. So these numbers are pretty arbitrary, I'd suggest at best. It's just a demographic of showing how, or sorry, an image just showing how testosterone levels start to wane. They really kick in around puberty. That's when young men start to get, a bit smelly and their long bones grow and they get the secondary hair developing, deepening of the voice. That is testosterone. They also can get that anger. It stays high for a man until late 30s and then it will start to drop. This is an example of some of the work I do with men, and this is a saliva test. It's a very accurate way to measure what's happening with the hormones inside the body. And because it's saliva, it's free hormone, which means it's unbound and it's the active start. Now, this is a real problem in this guy. You can see there the testosterone's really low. So yesterday I had two guys with very, very low testosterone. It was quite remarkable how low they were. It wasn't these results, there's another two. But you can see that estrogen also quite problematic, at least double where it should be at. And that's not healthy for a guy. Now, where is testosterone produced, you may ask? Interesting, it starts in the brain. So it starts in the hypothalamus with the GnRH. I won't go too much into the biochem pathways, but it's a hormone that will go to the anterior pituitary, which is just between your two eyebrows there. And they release two hormones called FSH and luteinizing hormone. These two hormones go down to the testes and the others go to the Leydig cells. Now, at that point, spermatogenesis, so you make sperm, or testosterone occurs. Ideally, testosterone stays as testosterone and gets utilized in the bones, around the heart, everywhere a guy needs testosterone to be used. However, if 5-alpha reductase is present, it will get converted into DHT, and DHT is 5 times stronger than normal testosterone. And it's the testosterone that's responsible for anger and rage. If you've heard about roid rage, sometimes that's what's happening. The testosterone's been flipped into DHT. It's also responsible for baldness, that big belly that guys get, and prostatic issues. On the other side, if it's aromatase, and that will happen if the man is low on zinc, it will get converted into estrogen. And that's a problem as well because estrogen, once again, prostatic issues. But estrogen for guy, they do produce it. You could see in the slide I had before. But it makes them depressed, self-doubt, anxious, poor sleep, man boobs, moobs, love handles, and it can create the scenario of fat. And if there's fat or obesity around, it's almost a no-brainer that the guy will be aromatizing and producing estrogen. And in fact, in order to lose weight, that needs to be addressed because it's very difficult to lose weight in the presence of estrogen or too much of it. Now, I've put this in here. These are cortisol. Now, I do want to dive a little bit into cortisol, and you might be wondering what on earth has that got to do with testosterone? Cortisol is produced in the adrenals in response to stress. It also is responsible for our 24-hour body clock. So typically, first thing in the morning, it starts to go up and peaks over the day around midday, and then will drop off at night, which then stimulates melatonin, which is our sleep hormone. Now, I will check this because high cortisol suppresses testosterone. It also gives me information about how burnt out the man is. So you can see in this person's result, cortisol first thing in the morning should be around 24. This guy's was only 12. He's pretty burnt out. Now, to confirm that, I drop down and look at the DHEA. It's 1.7. That should be 10. So I know that this guy is burnt out based on these results. And it's not surprising then when I do see the testosterone coming back also quite low. So just to recap on estrogen and cortisol, they will sabotage testosterone. As I've mentioned, men do need it in small amounts, but too much of it is not good. It's going to lead to fat, mood swings, low sex drive. And I see it regularly. I find guys will, their testosterone might be okay, but they might have high estrogen, or they can have low testosterone, high estrogen, or both might be low. Yeah, I see a range of different things, but often I'll find estrogen's high. Cortisol, the stress one, which I'll measure over the day, can be elevated by chronic stress and poor sleep. I'm going to get to sleep in a minute. and it suppresses testosterone. Really important, guys. Stress will turn off your ability to make testosterone. So somewhere in your day, there has to be some outlet, some stress management, some ability for you to diffuse and just bring yourself back to a core base, because that's when you start to make testosterone again. And notwithstanding that high cortisol is exhausting, it's inflammatory, so you end up with aches and squeaks and different things, and belly fat. Now, here are some natural ways that you can bump your testosterone up naturally. I'm not into hormone replacements because, and actually I should have put a slide in, any sort of hormone replacement, whether it's bioidentical, which means a little bit like your body, or synthetic, switches off your natural ability to produce hormones because it feeds back into the system that you're producing it. So your body goes, I'm making it, so it doesn't do it anymore. So at all costs, try and do these natural things. It doesn't have to be huge. And in fact, with strength training or HIIT, high intensity training, interval training, you only need to do it 3 times a week and it can be 15 minutes. Really good if you do it first thing when you get out of bed. Just do a 15-minute hit out. I don't necessarily use this person's here, but I'll use one on YouTube. There's plenty that you can do. You can do them even if you travel for work. It will boost your testosterone, and high testosterone will protect you from gaining weight. So very important you're doing some form of strength work. Now, sleep. I alluded to sleep before, how important it is. You see, majority of your testosterone is made during REM sleep. If you don't get REM, which is the rapid eye stuff, I don't know if you've ever looked at your partner when they're sleeping and it looks like their eyes are jittering back and forward, that's rapid eye movement, and that's when testosterone is being produced. Now, if you take sedatives or plenty of the sleeping tablets, you don't get that sleep. You actually circumvent that sleep. So there's this double-edged sword where guys need sleep to get the testosterone up, but if they're depressed or if they're anxious and they're not switching off, they'll often be given a sleeper and then they don't make the testosterone. And so the nasty cycle begins. So if you can, look at things that are like meditation. Just do something on the phone. Maybe read a book. Really switch off, get off the phone a good hour or 2 before bed. Make sure that your bedroom is conducive for sleep. Nice and cool, nice and dark, not noisy. Using alcohol to bring on sleep is a slippery slope. It suppresses REM, so you're less likely to dream when you've had alcohol on board, and therefore exacerbate not being able to produce testosterone. Foods. I've got a picture there. I took that picture a couple of years ago when I was at the markets. One of my favourite pastimes, and I'll share with you, is going to farmers markets. And the reason why is it's multiple, actually. It's not just one reason. The reasons why. You get to meet the people who are making your produce. If it's organic, there's a lot more love and care, and I want to meet those people. If they are going out of their way to make the best produce for me, I think the least I can do is honour them by going to the markets and purchasing their amazing food. You also get to meet that person and connect with the primary producer. I think getting closer to your food source as possible is very empowering. And the other thing it gets you to do is to buy what's seasonal. It's very fresh. It's usually much fresher than going through a supermarket, which might have been picked 3 weeks before and stuck in a freezer. But the colour, you'll find that you'll increase and improve your eating by 25% just going to farmers markets. So just try and find the one that's, if you're Monday to Friday, you're going to have to find something Saturday, Sunday, structure your weekend around it. You won't look back. It's one of those things that you go there and go, oh, look at all these veggies. The next thing, you've got a basket full of veggies, and it's inspiring when you get into the kitchen, hormone-free meats, and off you go. If you're vegetarian listening to this, you need to get some very good quality proteins in your diet. Now, I've just got a few points here. Vitamin D is important, so that's from the sun. If you're a skin cancer risk, please do your due diligence every year or as often as your doctor recommends to make sure you haven't got any nasty skin things going on. Vitamin D is very important for your hormones. And vitamin D is a hormone, interesting, even though it's called a vitamin, and it helps with the production of testosterone. You do need healthy fats. Fats, fats don't make people fat. Only excessive cheese or pizza or we now know that high sugar diets are probably the leading cause of fatty liver and fat. So eggs, avocados, olive oil, nuts, fatty fish such as tuna, herrings, cod are all healthy and create a very sustainable, healthy environment in your body that you can make balanced hormones. You need the fats in order to make the sterol ring, which is actually the hormone ring. Guys, I cannot stress enough, my favorite nutrient for a man is zinc. And that's because it stops that aromatization we were talking about before. Now, zinc's a mineral, but it's found in most of your nuts and seeds. So nuts such as pumpkin seeds, oh sorry, that's a seed, walnuts, pecan nuts, Brazil nuts, and then your shellfish. I'm a massive fan as well of magnesium because most people, particularly in Australia where I'm from, the soil is low in magnesium, therefore the produce is low in magnesium. So once again, this is general information only. You don't need to race off necessarily and get those things, but make sure your food is the best source food you can get, organic soil, where it's more likely to have high zinc and high magnesium for your body. Sugar can just go. You don't need sugar. Get that out of your diet. You don't need to mix a couple of teaspoons in with your tea, all that stuff. And you certainly don't need palm oil or seed oils. If you're veggie, you need to be looking at supplementing with hemp seeds, chia seeds, pumpkin seeds, plant-based proteins, pea, hemp, brown rice, all beautiful proteins. Now, this is another example of a test I did for a guy. You can see there the testosterone, while in range, it hasn't come up red, but that's too low. I always say to people, do you want to be just a pass mark or do you want to be, up in the high distinction? I think we all want to be in the high distinction, particularly when it comes to hormones, like in the good bracket. So if you've had any weight issues, low mood, low sex drive, memory loss, prostate issues, poor energy, any of those things may indicate that you're low in testosterone. Now, you don't need to suffer with that. In fact, there's something you can do from home, and that's a saliva test. And I've just been showing you what they look like. So you can order this online, and I'm also doing this for New Zealand as well. So you can order your own saliva test, gets posted out, and you get a 45-minute session with me where we go over your past history, what's going on for you right now, and where you want to be and how we're going to get you there based on your results, which is just giving us feedback. I really like looking at your lifestyle and augmenting that as your medicine per se. Now, if you order it today, so you can jump on, I'll give you the link in a minute. You can order this now. What happens is a little test tube comes out to your house. I'm including the cortisol levels at the moment, so there'll be 4 of these little guys. You date them, put your name on it, you spit into the tube, it's a saliva test. Over the day, there's a reply paid envelope, it all gets put back in there, posted through Australia Post or New Zealand, it'll be your New Zealand Post. Takes about 2 weeks to get the results back, then we set up an appointment and go over everything. If you were to order today, I'm going to give you a free copy of a ebook that I've written called Own the Edge. And I'm really proud of the book. It's a really beautiful manual that I have not seen anywhere else that covers the things that you can do from home in order to bring your testosterone up and give you peak performance, which is what it's all about. Now, the cortisol and the sex hormones today is only 650. So it's called the Essential Edge. And that would be the entry level that I recommend going in at to get those results, to have a sense of what's happening inside your body, because this could be the answer. And look, honestly, if you've got those symptoms I was saying before, it's very likely there's a hormone issue going on. If you're overweight, there's very likely there's a hormone issue. Same with mood, and you won't know until you do the testing. This is where you get it from. So it's menshealthyedge.com. And if you go to that website, you'll see it there under shop. But this is the URL /product/testosterone testing men. So I hope you found that really interesting. Reach out if you have any other questions, but that's a bit of an overview on how you can get the edge, find out what's going on at a physiological level for you and your testosterone and your cortisol and estrogen, because it can be a real game changer. So thank you very much for listening, and hopefully our paths will cross soon. Bye for now.